Hi there, everybody. Happy Thursday. It's noon here in Florida. I'll turn that fan off. It's a little distracting to have it circulating overhead. And here we are for another Facebook live stream. And the continuing topic is people-pleasing, boundaries, and sacred self-care. And this is part 3 of a series, and I don't know how long it will go on, as long as we need it to. The topic today is Me Too, what's next? Really important to talk about. Hi, Joan. Thank you so much for being here. Howdy to you, too. So we're going to take a minute, as we usually do, to take a deep breath into the present and release whatever's ready to be released. Another deep, full breath into our bodies and into the present. And releasing whatever's ready to be released. And now we're going to acknowledge that whoever is here, hi Sandy, thank you so much for coming. I appreciate you being here. So we're going to acknowledge that no matter where we are, I'm in Florida, Joan's in California, not sure where Sandy is, but people from all over the world will watch this at some point, either now while it's live or later after it's been recorded. And we are connected by a web of energy. We are not separate from one another. We are one as a human race. And so let's imagine that for now, Sandy's in Minnesota. So we're making a great big triangle from Florida to California to Minnesota, back to Florida, and then see whoever else jumps on. And so it's like we're holding hands, okay? And so we can imagine that and connect with one another. And anyone who watches this after it's recorded will also be part of that hand-holding experience. And so now we're going to go into our topic. I will tell you that I am Janice Masters, the Shaman Mama, and you can find me at janicemasters.com. And when you visit the website, if you wish to, you can sign up for 365 days of very powerful, inspirational, what-if quantum questions that will help to transform your limiting beliefs and align you a whole lot better with everything you want in your life. Ellen, so glad to see you here. Thank you. So yes, find me at janicemasters.com. And so the last 2 live streams that I did, okay, great. And Joan says she loves the what if questions. Oh, I do too. I've signed up for it and I get my questions, which were inspired. So they're brand new for me when I read them as they come into my mailbox. It's fun and it's enlightening, and I get emails just about every day from people who receive the what ifs and let me know how important they are, how they're helping them to really change their thinking and elevate their consciousness and expand their minds into possibilities that they hadn't thought of. So powerful stuff, very simple. So the last couple of live streams, the topic was the same, part 1 and 2. And we basically talked about how did we get here? You know, what is it about the culture and society and corporate culture and families, etc., that got us to be such people pleasers and to be so approval seeking and to believe that our safety lie in being good girls and not rocking the boat. So we spent quite a bit of time on that. So today we're going to, and last week we also began to address the Me Too movement, spurred by the revelation of a Hollywood high-profile figure being accused by several women of anything from sexual inappropriateness to rape. Okay, and we're looking as we see this Me Too movement. And how many women have chimed in, many of us who never said a word about what happened to us, some from the time we were very little girls, others right in their families, in their neighborhoods, next door neighbors, a family member, a teacher, all kinds of experiences. So it's really blown the secrecy lid off of the whole issue of sexual assault, sexual inappropriateness, sexual harassment of women. Many men have stepped up to say, I'm with you, sisters. I will do whatever I can to shape my own behavior and that of my brothers so that this stops. I have a client, very bright client, who wrote this morning in response to an article. I forget who was interviewed, but Katie Couric published the article on her blog. And my client said, this doesn't go anywhere near far enough. We have to change legislation. We look at the fact that the high-profile figure, I will not say his name, in Hollywood, had written into his contract that he gets to do this stuff with impunity, that he will not be prosecuted. So, and men have now begun to tweet, Joan says, how I will respond. That's fantastic, because that's part of where we go from here. What's next? The questions are, what is next? And where are we now? So please jump in to let me know what you think about where we are now and what's next, because those are really important questions. There's a tendency when there's an activist movement like this to leap over several steps that are really important. And my job right now with the women I teach and the women I coach and the women I counsel is to help keep us grounded, taking baby steps that are self-respectful and not jumping over anything that needs to be addressed. So in my opinion, where we are is that many of us for the first time have shared the secret of the sexual abuse that we endured. Some said something about it at the time. Some were believed, some were not believed. Some never said anything about it to anyone until now. And what's next is a multi-step process. Ellen says, where we're at, feeling the pain of seeing it all out in the open. Absolutely, yes. It's ripped open. We all thought we were alone in our pain, except for perhaps the very few people we had shared our story with. And now we see it is rampant. It is systemic. It is cultural. It's deep. It's wide. It's broad. It's horrific. So yes, it's all out in the open. And we have to let that settle for a minute. There are also women who have not said me too, because it still feels not okay to own it, and certainly not okay to be public about it, even in what feels like a reasonably safe forum like Facebook. Ellen says, and my husband is reacting, wondering how he may have contributed. Yes, I've had those conversations with my husband and my son as well. And so we have a continuum of where we are right now. Some of us have told our stories before and gone public with them. Others at the other end of the spectrum didn't even feel safe enough to chime into Me Too and everything in between. Okay, so there's a process going on of shining a huge spotlight on the issue, helping women to feel not alone anymore. And yet we can't go running off to what we think is the next step. A lot of women have been sharing the particulars of their stories on Facebook, and if that is really where they are and they are really comfortable with that, then I say, oh, okay, God bless them. But for many of us, we don't care to share our stories in a public forum, at least not yet. One woman said, okay, that's it, I'm going to write my book. And I said, well, I hope you'll take a minute to ask yourself, is this the time to really rip the Band-Aid off? Jones has allowed and participated in crude jokes and belittling without saying anything. Yeah, that's been true of sexual degradation of women, and also racism. I threatened to throw somebody out of my house if she said a particular word again. She said a particular word again. She was shocked. Yeah, you're speaking of men, but women have participated also. You know, this is a real consciousness raiser because, as somebody pointed out today, there are plenty of women who supported and voted for the person in the White House. They may or may not be saying Me Too, but they were willing to overlook his dramatically overt sexual harassment and sexual abuse of women. Ellen says, and empathetically, we're all feeling all of this with people as the stories are told. That's right. I mean, it's really breaking our hearts open. You know, we read the stories and we realize, oh my God, she felt the same thing I felt. Or, oh my God, that's so horrendous, I can't even believe it. So we have this heart of compassion that is blown open. And yeah, so telling our story is important, but only when we are ready, only when I am ready to tell my story, because that means revealing the child inside of me. Whether the abuse happened when you were 6 or 16 or 26 or 46, it doesn't matter. The one being attacked is the child inside, the vulnerable child, because let's remember, all of this sexual harassment and sexual abuse is not about sex. It's about violence. It's about aggression. Sex is just the way it's carried out. So I urge everybody, take your time. Find a respectful pace for yourself that honors your own sensibility about what you want to share about your story and with whom. At first, honestly, it may be enough that you've just said Me Too, because maybe you're allowing yourself to remember in ways that you had shut down. So maybe the next step is journaling about it, writing your story for yourself, really letting yourself remember, and being with the pain of that, being with the horrific nature of that. For someone else, maybe there are some cherished and trusted others in a small circle that you may wish to share your story with. And then there are others who are ready to be sharing in a much more public forum. The point is, yeah, that's a very powerful way to do it. Joan says, how about speaking it out loud in the room, not with anyone else there? Yes, that is a very powerful way to claim your voice. And you can also use the Gestalt empty chair technique when you're ready and speak the story to a parent or to the perpetrator. But yes, a first step, speaking it out loud to let the words fall on your own ears. Feel connected. I mean, this holding hands at the beginning that I do, that's not just airy-fairy. I really want us to hold hands energetically. I want us to do that so that we don't feel that we are walking this journey alone. We are holding hands with each other, and you get to choose with whom to hold hands. I remember, really brings up some tears for me, a very, very poignant secret that I decided to share in a psychotherapist training group that I was in about 35 years ago. And it was about the eating disorder that I had kept secret. At least I thought so. I had kept it secret for the decade during which I had this eating disorder. And when we arrived that morning, we heard about a colleague of ours who was found dead on her kitchen floor as a result of her eating disorder. And so I knew this was my moment. I knew I had to say something. I knew I had to reveal my secret. So what did I do? We're sitting in a big circle on the floor, and this is both men and women. Two very good friends were sitting on either side of me, and the first thing I did was I grabbed their hands. I held hands. Because while I was alone in revealing my secret, I didn't have to be alone. They squeezed my hands. I knew they were there. Everybody else's eyes were on me. And it was one of the most liberating moments of my life, I have to say. So, yeah, take your time. Honor your pace. Sabrina, hi. So glad you're here. What a nice surprise. And hold hands. Hold hands. The other thing is we want to be very mindful of not doing what we call a spiritual or psychological bypass. This is not the time to be leaping into forgiveness of the perpetrator. This is not the time to say, oh, thank God, now I'm healed. No, this opened the box. This took the ribbon off, took it down from the shelf, took the ribbon off, opened the box, and now we look at the truth of it. So we don't want to be flying over this because we think that's going to be more comfortable, to rush into forgiveness or to announce that we're now healed because we've said it out loud. There's a deep process that goes on, and mainly what we're looking at is pain that we buried, and we buried it for good reason. We didn't know what the hell to do with it. It was not welcome to be shared, to be talked about. The other thing that I want you to think about is what this means to your inner child. Time to sit with the open box, says Joan. Absolutely. Sometimes we need a minute just to take in, just to breathe in that there has been a shift on the timeline of this event in our lives that we've been carrying with us for X number of years or decades. Yeah, just sit with the open box. Sit with the open story. Sit with the breath into, wow, it's not a secret anymore. Wow, maybe I can actually get to a place of not carrying shame and guilt about it, because that's one of the very powerful things that's happening with the Me Too movement, is that women are realizing that it wasn't our fault. It wasn't even our fault that we didn't say anything about it. It wasn't our fault that nobody believed us. None of it was our fault. And so we're beginning to be able to just, it's like a fresh breath of springtime. We're able to just take a fresh breath into, oh, maybe I can begin to let go of shame and guilt about this. And what that means is that we also have an opportunity to take a breath into self-compassion, to really understand, why did my 6-year-old, my 16-year-old, my 26-year-old, why did she not speak up? I understand why she didn't speak up. You know, we talked about that in the last 2 live streams about people pleasing. We're very deeply conditioned to watch our P's and Q's. And we even know when to speak up, who will believe us, who won't, what might happen. I mean, you know, we're not empaths for nothing. You know, we've been paying attention since we were children. We've been paying attention. The radar's been out. We've been vigilant. We know who to trust, who not to trust, who's going to react how. And we've been running interference for our little vulnerable inner child for decades. And so there is a sense of freedom that we can begin to feel, to be more authentic, to speak more authentically, and to realize, and this is a really big one, to realize that we no longer have to abandon that little girl inside. I want to stop for a minute and ask, are there any questions that are coming up? Any comments that you want to make? How does Pandora's box, the shaming for opening it, relate? Well, I'm not finding that there is much shame in opening the box now. I think that the shame belongs to the past, and Again, we exist along a continuum, and for some, the sharing of Me Too was very natural and felt organically right. And for some, they still have not said Me Too because it still feels too threatening, too scary. But Joan, you say more about what you mean about the shaming for opening Pandora's box. Are you referring to the shaming for the Me Too movement, for really blowing the lid off of everything? One thing I know about shame in women is that the darkness that we open. Well, here's what happens. What happens the minute you open a box that contains darkness? It's flooded with light. The darkness has been in the containment of it. Oh yeah, the shaming for making it public. Are you personally feeling that, or are you saying that others are shaming those of us who have made it public? I'll speak while you're thinking about that and formulating a response. I will tell you that I have confronted a couple of law of attraction teachers, pretty prominent ones, who have been saying, okay, I get it. But you've been shamed in the past for trying to speak the truth. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that this Me Too movement is beginning to be the antidote to that. But I have challenged a couple of law of attraction teachers who have tried to insist that joining in the Me Too movement is living in what we don't want. Now, Abraham does not tell us to lie about things. And Abraham doesn't tell us to fabricate. And so my position has been with these other teachers, and look, I respect everybody's point of view, but the problem for me, and maybe this is a result of growing up in the Catholic Church, is that I have a big problem with dogma. You know, if you say to me, well, this is true and there's nothing that you can say to make it untrue or to mitigate it or to change it or to modify it, no, that's not really going to fly for me, because I want beliefs, I want structure, I want principles, I want foundational ideas that are humane and humanistic and actually serve people. And so I have shared this one story, at least, about one of my clients who was so liberated by Me Too that she marched into her boss's office and asserted herself like a warrior goddess. So you know, I'm not expecting to go to battle with these other law of attraction teachers, but I am saying, look, there's another way to look at this. Me Too is not, we don't want to live in Me Too. I get that. But it is most definitely a catalyst. It's like throwing a spark on a pile of dry tinder. It has caught fire, and it has changed the lives of millions of women and men already. And so don't tell me that I have to be a pendulum that swings one way and talk about what I want. Yeah, we're getting to the what I want, but I know, as someone who's practiced as a therapist for 22 years and then the last 16 years as a spiritual and life coach, there's a process that goes on. Now, healing is a tricky word because recently it's kind of taken on the, oh, just forget about it and be whole. That's really not what healing is. Healing is opening a space to hold the wounds compassionately, to allow them to be integrated into our experience, to not have to hide them or pretend they don't exist. And that might be something that we talk about next time, because we're just about out of time here. But if there are any more questions or comments, I would love to try to answer them. Oh, you bet the body remembers. It's in our cellular memory. And here's another piece about that, which the epigeneticists are talking about, which is that ancestral trauma of this nature comes down through the DNA. So as we heal this, as we work with this to embrace it and to have compassion for ourselves, we are healing backwards through our lineage and forward into our descendants. And that's probably the most powerful thing we can leave ourselves with today. So bless you all for being here. I really appreciate you taking the time. If other comments or questions occur to you, please go ahead and post them in the comments. I'll come back and take a look. And again, I'm Janice Masters, the Shaman Mama from janicemasters.com. I do these Facebook Lives on my page every Tuesday and Thursday at noon Eastern. And then if you are a member of my Conscious Woman's Miracle Circle, I also do a live stream there on Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern. So I will see you next time. Bless you too, Sandy. Thank you so much for taking the time. And blessing all of you and love all of you. And thank you so much. I really appreciate every one of you. Thanks. See you soon. Bye.